So, what do you guys want to talk about? You're watching HSP on the Give Us a Shot Network here on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show. We are back. It's Jeff Martin alongside the Trendsetter. We are the Jersey Wrecking Crew. Make sure you follow us on all our social media at High Spot Podcast. And also, you can listen to the show on all podcast platforms. Just make sure you check High Spot Podcast. So you can listen to us when you can't see us. Trendsetter, we are back here. Lots to discuss. On a very action-packed episode here. We got to talk about Raw, we got to talk about Smackdown, and a little bit of NXT as well. We're going to start off with AEW Dynamite, as that's the last show that came on, so lots to discuss, Trendsetter. But the first thing I got to talk about before we even get to that is this Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight. Are you buying into this? Are you going to watch? Is it just a curiosity of what Mike Tyson has left? Or if Jake Paul, you can take him as a legitimate boxer? Are you drawn to see this? Is on Netflix. It's not a pay-per-view or anything like that, so you will be able to watch as long as you subscribe to Netflix. Will you be tuning in? Has your interest been tickled by what you saw at the presser? A little slap on Jake Paul by Mike Tyson. I don't know. Your thoughts, Trendsetter, real quick, because this is something that, I don't know, will it work on Netflix? It's the beginning of live events on Netflix as Raw tends to go now. We'll go there actually in January as Raw moves to Netflix. Is this something that you're going to be interested in?
Well, first of all, good to join you here, Jeff, on the High Spot Podcast. Something like this, it's a good experiment, in my opinion, to try it on Netflix because that's the way it's going. It's evolving now. No more are we going to be having, I feel, pay-per-views. We have premium live events now. They're on streaming platforms. I think it's just a different way to capture different audiences through subscriptions and through a platform like Netflix, which basically everyone around the world has and is aware of. Am I interested in it? Not really, to be honest with you. I mean, in the beginning, it intrigued me in the sense of, wow, this is actually going to happen, that Mike Tyson agreed to do this. Listen, taking nothing away from Jake Paul. Everything is done, and I'm not being a hater and all at all when I say this, but you know, when you have the name of Mike Tyson coming back, and we saw when he had an exhibition with Roy Jones, he's got some stuff left in the tank. Now, granted, that was a couple of years ago. He's 58 years old right now. I think there's more anticipation when it was first announced, going off of Mike Tyson's last performance, which was about 2 years ago. But now with the medical situation he had where the fight had to be postponed, I think a lot of people are now concerned that hopefully nothing happens to Mike Tyson. I think they could care less about Jake Paul. But at the same time, I give credit where credit's due. Jake Paul was able to bring Mike Tyson in. He's obviously drawing the numbers just because of his name alone is Iron Mike Tyson. Jake Paul's obviously benefiting off of that. But at the end of the day, it's an exhibition. That's what I expect it to be. I know a lot of people want Mike Tyson to destroy Jake Paul or are concerned that Jake could actually knock out him in this fight. I think it's just going to be an exhibition. They're doing their best to rile it up right now to bring people to see it. But in terms of I'm interested in it, will I see it? If I tend to run across it on social media, I might turn it on, but it's not something I'm looking forward to.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm a flat-out mark. I like the slap. It's the last get the buy-ins before this fight. So
they're reaching, though. They're reaching for all they can. I can't take it away from them.
Same thing you'd see in a WWE kind of press conference, that little thing towards the end where you see like some physicality. Just to draw those last buy rates, and I get it too. And the curiosity too is like we were talking to Simon Miller on IG Live this week. You know, just that curiosity is, you know, we saw the little Psycho Mike Tyson come out a little bit. Will it last? I'm not sure with the rules here. Honestly, like I said, I'm a novice to this too.
It's 8 rounds, each one 2 minutes. Yeah.
So can Mike Tyson last that? Can we get our bang for our buck? Not that we're paying for this, but can we just get our enough that, you know, there's interest in maybe something else that Jake Paul does, but in ultimate heel fashion, Jake Paul has drawn you in because you want to see Mike Tyson kick his ass. Obviously, the Paul brothers are very good at getting that heat and that last minute heat. We'll see what happens, but I'll tune in to watch. So there's so much to do this weekend. We got to catch up on wrestling, and then we got to catch up on Cobra Kai, and also catch up on this Tyson and Jake Paul fight. So you just want to make sure it lasts the full 8 rounds, and you just make sure that Mike Tyson's okay. Does it ruin his legacy if he loses? No, I don't think so, man. You just like to see Mike Tyson get paid and just him come out healthy, and that's all we need. Just entertain us.
And for both, really. You want both to be unscathed here. You want it to be an exhibition. You want it to be entertaining. That's what you want. I think for anyone, despite whatever side you're on, Jeff, to hope injury on any one of these competitors, I think would be a safe bet. Of course, people want Jake Paul to get his ass handed to him, but, you know, at the end of the day, I feel like If you're enjoying it for what it is, enjoy it for what it is. I'm not really expecting much. I think it'll go the full distance, and hopefully it'll be entertaining to see Mike Tyson, an old version of him to a certain degree, to see what he has left.
Yeah, that Mike Tyson can still draw. We'll see what the audience is for Arlington, Texas, but that will be on Netflix this weekend, so make sure you catch it. We just had to talk about that because, again, that little presser, that little media scrum towards the end, that face-off, obviously to get that last-minute buys for, or not even the buys, just to get the views up, right, for the streaming stuff.
I know, you're right. It's funny. People talk about boxing, talk about, MMA. They talk about anything in general. When there's a press conference, there's always been a skirmish there. Basically copying wrestling. The formula is there. It's been created, right? And they're just copying it.
Definitely. So that to do definitely on the plate. So we'll tune into that. All right, Trendsetter. So you talked about getting your ass handed to you. And we're coming off of an AEW head-to-head with NXT on a Wednesday night. Of course, we had the elections last week, so that's why we had a face-off between NXT and AEW, which was NXT 2300 from Philadelphia. Of course, there was a nostalgia factor there. And then you had I would not say it's a decisive victory, but obviously you've been on Wednesday nights a long time now. And for a Tuesday night show to just come on with a week's notice that they're moving, well, not even a week's notice, I apologize, about a couple of weeks' notice that they're going to be on a Wednesday night. You'd think that the advantage would go to AEW Dynamite, but I would not say decisive, but there was a substantial victory for NXT. And when we talk about AEW, we didn't do the last AEW on IG Live, and it just shows you that the level of interest, at least on our point, because we try to give everything a chance, it has diminished greatly. And we talked to Simon Miller about it, and he has high hopes for AEW in 2025 as the new deal has obviously led to the future maybe a little slightly in doubt. I would say 5% in doubt last year for where AEW is going to go. We kind of had an inkling they were going to stay with Warner Brothers WB. Now that their future is secure, now we're talking about the quality of the product in itself. And I get everyone has their own opinion, and we try not to bash anything because we love wrestling. We love more opportunity for the boys. But in all honesty, speaking this objectively, it is tough to get through 2 hours of AEW Dynamite, and it's where the best wrestle, and I have a very tough time believing that is the case. Because as we take a look at this episode, we're going to get a little synopsis of what went on. Are you having trouble getting through 2 hours of Dynamite right now?
Listen, I'm having trouble going through 20 minutes of it. And I'm not here to diminish the product or diminish AEW, because similar to what Simon said, and you and I have had these discussions before, Jeff, we wanted to succeed. We wanted to continue on. We're not asking, which I'm sure a lot of people will feel there's this war between WWE and AEW. Not even close, guys. There is no war whatsoever. It's just manufactured, I think, in the internet community's head. But I wanted to succeed, but it's really difficult right now because you go from scenario where we talked about the inception of it and how excited everyone was to have a type of alternative. Like, granted, there was Impact before it converted to TNA. You had New Japan. You had Ring of Honor to a certain extent before it got bought out by Tony Khan. But you didn't really have a one that had the potential of possibly being a number two, or maybe down the road in the near distant future, go head to head with WWE. But when I look at it now, it's like they want to brand, this is where the best wrestle. Okay. Well, if I'm looking at it, and again, I'm a novice per se, right? But I'm seeing botch after botch. So is this really where the best wrestle? Am I seeing mistake after mistake, whether it be on the microphone or actually in the ring, in terms of what type of psychology they want to do, the reaction of the crowd? I mean, really, there's hardly anything there. And I just don't know what more you can do. I'm losing my breath just talking about it, but it's hard to see. I want to look at the positive aspect of it where, yes, they are turning a slight corner because they're trying to be more story-based to a certain degree, but you can't do a 180 in overnight, and that's the problem where I think it's going on right now. They're trying to do a complete 180 to a certain degree. All right, now we're going to do story-based lines, but none of them make any sense, so there's a lot of question creative here. So it's difficult to watch, man. Usually when I get to 20 or 30 minutes, you have an idea of where the show's going to go, the direction it's going to go in. I have a hard time figuring out what AEW is doing. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing because it seems chaotic to me.
It's been more of a bad thing lately. And again, we talked about how, yes, they are emphasizing storylines, but whether these storylines are making sense, that's a totally different case. So you wonder if Tony Khan is having issues relating what his vision is, because there's been a lot of people talking that Tony has like a photographic memory. He knows everything that happened. He can tell you what happened in AEW Dynamite from last February on the first week of February at 8:00. Right? He can tell you what exactly happened, but we do not know this. And just the idea of interlocking stories on Collision and on Rampage, there's just an issue. And yes, there's more storyline based, but they need to make more sense. And there's a perfect example is with this whole MJF and Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. Now you're getting a matchup at Full Gear, which to me is everyone. First of all, MJF and Adam Cole, the Devil, all this fiasco that happened that kind of killed, to me, MJF's momentum. And we wanted to see the payoff that eventually should be Adam Cole and MJF. But we're getting Roderick Strong against MJF and not Adam Cole. That's just, to me, that's what are we doing here as far as like where Roderick Strong fits into all this? So it to me is like, okay, you really want to give the matches, but now you're not giving us this match, which again is storyline based, and where Roderick Strong fits into this now. Yes, it's a part of the Undisputed Kingdom. Okay, fine, but it should be really between MJF and Adam Cole heading into Full Gear, and we're not getting that.
It's funny when you looked at the scenario between Adam Cole and MJF as an example. It was a scenario where MJF was turning the corner. He was actually letting the crowd cheer for him. He was actually connecting with the audience, and the end result was that the person that backstabbed him was his quote-unquote best friend, which ended up being the Devil, Adam Cole. Adam Cole gets injured. We're looking for a payoff. The payoff was a kick to the groin, MJF on Adam Cole, and then that was it. Now we're coming back. Adam Cole's been off of TV because he's still nursing his ankle injury, and now MJF has turned 180 as a heel. So we're supposed to forget what's going on here, and that's the disconnection there too. It's that you can create a story and keep the story going regardless of my opinion if somebody's turned as a good guy or a bad guy. It doesn't really matter. You want to continue the story, and now it's in the opposite direction, because when you look at a heel aspect of MJF, in order to get to him, you have to go through loops and run through hoops to get to him, right? Now it's like, wait a minute, you're still the same despicable MJF that you were before in the past, but now you're going to be jumping through hoops to get to Adam Cole. I mean, I don't get it. It shouldn't be Adam Cole coming after him since he's the babyface, and this whole thing's going around in terms of it just seems really badly organized. It just makes no sense whatsoever.
It really seems played out. And again, this MJF, ever since he signed that new deal, it's not been. I don't think there's been consistency with MJF's character. I mean, I know he's shooting a movie. I don't know if he's still shooting a movie. That's why we're getting those videotape segments. But I mean, it's every week it's the same thing. He's being a boss from like his home, and it's just not adding up. Now we're not seeing MJF till the Prudential Center next week.
And I feel MJF has lost connection where you would, no matter what, you would always get a reaction from him in terms of the audience would be booing or cheering him. Now, even with these vignettes, we're not getting that anymore. So now it's like you said, since he resigned, we're just not getting the same type of MJF that we're used to seeing anymore.
And it's a lot that also due to attendance. There's not a lot of people there. I mean, those crowds are, 1,900 in Bridgeport, not Stanford. And it's just been consistently, you can hear a pin drop in these arenas, and it really affects the way you see it. And the refusal to go into these smaller venues because of other stuff that they always say is the reason why to, whether it's convenience and it's all this and that, because they can always open up more space just in case, to me is just nonsensical, because you have to, it's like when you first watch AEW Dynamite, the colors, the fans were packed, and it was something different to what you were seeing. It was the reversal that you were seeing on Raw and SmackDown. You were seeing this fun thing on AEW, and they're refusing to change. And I think in the long run, it's really, really hurting the product. We have that storyline. And then you have Mercedes Moné, who, when she was Sasha Banks in WWE, was on her way to have this historic WWE Hall of Fame career. She goes away. She has every right to not be happy with the way she's being pushed, and more power to her, because she got what she wanted. She got paid. And she goes to AEW, and you're thinking, wow, this is a big hit to WWE. But this has been, in my opinion, one huge egg after egg that she has laid. And I'm used to think like maybe it's their fault, maybe they don't know, but she's got her own writer. She's the one that has a lot of creative say here, and she's trying to get these females involved. And this Chris Statlander feud is again something that, like, you said that you're taking this division to new heights. To where you're taking this division, I have no idea, but it is not anywhere near. You're not getting your bang for your buck here, because it has been completely just horrible. I don't know what happened to her promo skills. I know she really wasn't 100% well in promos, but it's just gotten worse. And if it carries over into the ring, then you have really paid for the name, and it's not even anything near what she was in WWE. Are you baffled, or are you not surprised of what Mercedes Moné has done so far in AEW?
I'm baffled by the amount of money they paid Mercedes Moné, when, in my opinion, through her past with WWE and what she was doing in the independent scene when she joined New Japan Pro Wrestling or joined some type of promotion in Japan, coming back here, I was like, you're going to pay her this amount of money when a lot of what she had accomplished was a byproduct of the company she was working with and the exposure she was getting with WWE. And now we see what happens when you don't have a creative process. And again, we could talk about every single.
She has a writer, though. She has her writer.
Yeah, but it's a writer and what it seems good for her. It's the same thing. We can have writers, but as long as they're taking our narrative, that's all that matters. When you could have somebody else from the outside looking in saying, listen, no, that's not going to work. We're going to have to change things up. My point is the fact that I'm surprised in terms of Tony Khan made such a strong commitment towards her. There's nothing I could take away from Mercedes Moné in terms of in the ring. She still has yet to give me a few stinkers. I mean, they haven't been classics. We've seen fast, but they haven't been that bad in terms of, wow, she's stinking up the joint, because they've been far worse that we've seen come from AEW. But in terms of them mic ability on the mic to talk, granted, she's a great heel. You love to hate her. Why wouldn't you, right? The laugh, the smile, everything. But her promos are just god-awfully horrible that I'm like, Mike, just stop talking right now. Stop. Because the crowd's not even booing anymore, because they're just over it. They don't want to react to it, because they feel if they give a reaction, they're giving her what she wants. And nothing is making sense here. With Chris Statlander, in terms of just, you would have to really hit me over the head to maybe care about what's going on right now, because even though you have a talent like that, a Mercedes Moné, in terms of what she's garnered to this point, I'm just shaking my head like, Mike, I didn't ever think it was going to be this bad, and it is.
Usage of Camille has been a waste of time. She's, to me, been like devalued, depushed, and really has become irrelevant, and has become not a bodyguard, but more of a
comedy act
that's getting her bag and picking up her coat and just taking the fall, or being the stooge of not doing things correctly. And she's become Mercedes whipping girl. And the very fact that I don't think AEW has ever embraced Mercedes is another thing too. Like, she's getting that heat of like, hey, you're an outsider kind of heat. And I said this, I don't think I've mentioned to anybody, but I think nobody's ever said this to me. She's tone deaf. I don't think she can hear her voice, and it just seems so out of whack. It doesn't seem like it seems like it's scripted, and it seems like she's not being natural. But yet when she's her own persona and she's her own little fantasy world and she talks her up, that's why people don't like her, because she thinks all this highly of herself. And yes, sometimes confidence can do that. But I think she's tone deaf to the fact that I don't think she hears her own voice, and it just sounds like a little like stuffy all the time. I think that's an issue too. And again, just the value, and Tony can say whatever he wants, and Mercedes can get on that corporate jet whenever she wants and take the day off or go shoot a movie whenever she wants, because Tony will understand. But you're not getting any ratings increase. You can't really say that she did anything for the new TV deal, because they were going to get it anyways. So what has she contributed as far as to the product? Because the ratings are still down, the numbers are still down. So what exactly are you getting your value for? The the best women wrestle, where you're creating these opportunities. Where exactly are these new opportunities going to be made? And Chris Statlander, for someone very talented, is still toiling away. She's just doing circles with her character. And whether you're looking forward to this match or not, I think they're capable enough of making you want to watch it when they're in the ring. But the lead into this has just been blah and comical, and it's really made, and while in doing so, it's really hindered Camille, because she is so far removed from when she made her debut. You thought they were going to do something, but the thing in AEW is if you're big and you're menacing and you look like a pro wrestler, you're kind of fucked, because that's not something that they see. Whether you're Wardlow, whether you're Lance Archer, whether you're a Camille, if you look like a wrestler and you've got the look and you look like you're larger than life, you're destined to fail.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, in terms of what they've done with Camille, is just, to me, an utter embarrassment. If you wanted her to be a powerhouse where she was this security for Mercedes, and listen, that's classic wrestling too, right? The Heat, where like your bodyguard, your protector is doing all this work for you, and you're just barely getting away through the skin of your teeth by winning. That's what you wanted. And now it's been the fact that she just is yelled at, berated, and her value has diminished in terms of what she can offer, because it seems that at some point when you look at storylines, is this is the classic setup that Camille's will eventually turn, but they haven't been together long enough to establish a story of why Camille would turn on Mercedes. I'm not saying it's going to happen anytime soon, maybe down the road, but it seems it might happen sooner than later, because there's going to reach a point where Camille is going to have enough.
We're going to
toss around, be embarrassed. Exactly. And we're not going to care that happens. It's going to happen, but it's going to be for nothing. It's not going to be worth anything. And for Mercedes, in terms of, what has she brought to the company? A name that was a byproduct of another company, because Sasha Banks is dead. This is Mercedes Moné, and it's the same thing, like the same walk, the same arrogance, the same talk, doing the same mannerisms. But when you paint it as something else, completely different, it just amazes me that you see the separation in terms of how Mercedes was handled in WWE, and in terms of how they wanted to handle her and present her to the audience. And then when you give full reins to somebody who thinks they know better, and then you see the outcome of what that is, then you're like, okay, well, now we know why there's such a big issue here, because Mercedes' professional, her professional decisions in terms of what she wants to do are not working at all.
While you respect what she did, you're seeing now that while she didn't like some of the ideas that were being put on her by Vince and by the old regime, these ideas that she's coming up with her writer, with her staff, which she's collaborating with Tony, are not working either. And they have still not had her relate to the AEW audience. So that is something that still has not worked out. Whether in 2025 they'll be able to get to that, you don't know. And I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think she's just getting these booths because AEW has not embraced her, and they don't like her and haven't accepted her. Other funny things too that just doesn't make sense to me. We'll get more into Dynamite. Is Kenny Omega's coming back, Trendsetter, but he's not coming back to AEW. He's coming back to New Japan. And he gave his reasons in a recent interview, saying that he owes New Japan for making him the wrestler that he is. I get it. What I find comical is he says that AEW doesn't need him right now. And I'm just like, okay. And this is where there's an issue, because you're telling me that Kenny Omega would not be integral into this whole situation of what's going on in AEW with the Death Riders, and they're trying to take. So it just. I don't understand. I know you have a partnership, but you're bringing back your top star who's been your face, or you're one of your go-to guys, and you're bringing back a New Japan event. I don't understand. I would have promoted the hell out of him. Imagine the rating you get if you promote Kenny Omega return. You do some vignettes, and you have him coming back maybe at Full Gear, or come back on the Wednesday night after Full Gear to come back. And is it because the Bucks are away now and they're not coming back? I don't understand why you have your big star go to a company, let's be honest, that you've done everything possible to bleed dry and suck all the talent out, and now has become an irrelevant company. This is not New Japan of 2017, of 2018. This is a shell of a company that, let's be honest, Tony Khan has done everything in his power to sap everything out of it.
Can't say any better than that, man. I really can't, because
I mean, like, how does it make? How would you even? If
it doesn't make sense. But what makes sense to me is the fact when Kenny goes out and says what he said in terms that AEW doesn't need me right now. What's really telling me, and maybe this is my opinion though, right? And I'll take it as my opinion, is really telling me that he doesn't really want to go back to AEW, because when the inception happened, there was a lot of excitement behind it, but I don't think they really went out of their way. Now, yeah, during the COVID era, Kenny collected all the belts, but even at that time, too, he wasn't 100%. They weren't utilizing the way you thought they would have used him in terms of introducing him to a new audience, which would make him more mainstream than not just somebody who came from New Japan Pro Wrestling and was so popular internationally. Let's make him even popular globally. Didn't work. So with Kenny, like, to him, it's like, do I want to go with what's familiar, or do I want to go to somewhere where I don't really know what direction I'm going to go in? I think Kenny likes to take things in his own way, meaning make decisions based on his feeling and his gut. And all the love and support is what made him a huge star was New Japan. So there's some legitimacy when he says things like that. But when he says AEW doesn't need me right now, that is an utter crock in my opinion. I feel honestly that Kenny just doesn't want to go back there right now because there's nothing good for him. He's going to get lost in the shuffle. And what better way in terms of showcasing what big of a star he is back where it all started for him in New Japan. That's what I got from the impression there. He's going to be nice and he's going to be, be polite and kind, never really bash it, but I think that's what he feels.
And most certainly when you have a guy like Will Ospreay, who in my mind is you'd want him on every show, and you strike this deal, you pay him a lot of money, and he gets to fly back to the UK and be with his family, which is fine and dandy, but you don't tour. You don't have the grind, no offense, of the WWE schedule. And you only have to show up on Wednesday and the pay-per-view, and then you have a couple weeks off, and then you don't have that consistency of seeing Will Ospreay, who is your main guy right now. And that's another thing, too, that I find crazy. Like, fine, pay the guy the money, but hey, I need you for every Wednesday night. There's no ands, ifs, or buts. It's a once a week, and then you show up at the end of the month for the pay-per-view. I don't mind him shelling out the cash. You might have to sometimes to overpay, but the fact is you got to work every Wednesday night, bruv. Then that's it, and there's no excuse. And the inconsistencies with Will Ospreay is another reason why you really can't solidify him as the major star, because now you have guys like Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy, who is the face, if not Will Ospreay. That's the only believable guy that I know right now, not named Kenny Omega, that can be, in my opinion, the legitimate face of AEW. And this whole Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, while yes, there's a storyline based here and everything, I have no freaking idea what they're saying when they get mad at each other. And I don't have it in me to try to translate or find find captions for this, because bruv, I don't. That's all I hear. Bruv, and I get lost in it. Well, I think it's going to be a good match. I mean, they got to take it down a notch here with their interactions, because I don't understand what the dialogue is.
Listen, from a match quality perspective, it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. There's no question about that. Wouldn't even argue it for a second. In terms of the story and the reasoning behind it, I absolutely have no clue what the hell. Not of what they're saying. Like in terms of you can't understand what they're saying. I don't know what they're talking about. There's no reason in terms of what they're saying. And listen, you go back to Tony, what you said before, too. Tony loves going back in the past, but here's the thing. You cannot assume that your entire audience, even your die-hardcore fans, know the history unless you present it to them. And I'm not saying present it to them from a one-on-one back-and-forth promo. Can you do some production here in terms of giving us an idea of the history between these two, as opposed to having it being lectured by Don Callis, being presented slightly a little bit from the commentating team? We need more, because the audience needs to understand this. When you have something like this, you can build some great story from it, but if you don't make valid points in terms of the reason of why Kyle Fletcher did what he did, which he did make points, but they made absolutely no sense to me, and how heartbroken a guy like Will Ospreay should be, not emotional in terms of, I'm going to beat you up, bruv. It doesn't matter to me. Put the ego aside. How about you, Will Ospreay, show some emotion in terms of your best friend, your brother, bruv, betrayed you. You don't get that from Will Ospreay. It's always anger. I'm going to kick you, you know what? And it just loses its value at that point. And in my opinion, it's a blown opportunity. Great match from bell to bell you're going to get, but more people would be more intrigued in this if you gave him something to fight, something to believe in, something to look forward to. You don't do that here.
Yeah, and I'm just basically gonna say that the match is gonna be great, but again, the lead-in could have been so much more. And you get Fletcher and Ospreay, a big time fight for Fletcher. This is the one match that will probably be a reason why he is an up and comer in AEW. So we'll get that at Full Gear, and then getting into another thing too is like this whole Death Riders thing. I honestly am waiting for something big to happen, and it's just constantly seeing, you know, Claudio and Pac and John Moxley, and you know, like in tank tops, like matching. And I just, again, this is something like we thought it was Shane McMahon. It's honestly, I don't think it is now.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I'm sorry. I like Cesaro or Claudio. We met him. Good dude. He is what he is. Pac, again, great wrestler. Is he gonna like blow you away with a promo? Is Claudio gonna blow you away? No. And they just look like zombies. You know, it looks like zombies. And then Wheeler Utah, again. I'm sorry. He has no aura whatsoever. He has no reason for me to want to watch him. He's bland, and I think the more he lets his hair out, his beard grow out, he just looks more of like a fan that just came out of the arena, and you're like, he has no business being there. That for him to be the center of this, really? And then Orange Cassidy, for what he was when he first came in, okay, and just entertaining, hands in his pocket, does little kicks, really slow, the thumb up and everything like that, cool. But then you're gonna push him into this main event level. Hey, if he got there, good for him. Congratulations. I'm not angry or hating, but like, really, this is going to be, you know, I guess, sorry, we were born in an era where you have to be larger than life. So when you post your champion against a Roman Reigns or even a Cody Rhodes, guys that have this personality that's larger than life, I'm sorry, but a Darby Allin who just says he doesn't want to be referred to as a superstar, I know he cleared up his point saying some gibberish and trying to backtrack, but I don't think of it. You know what I think of when I see Darby Allin? A crash test dummy. So I apologize. I will never, you don't even have to be mad about it. I will never confuse you with a superstar, right? You're a crash test dummy. And these are the two guys that you're putting in this feud. Come on, man. And then Wheeler Utah on top of it, that's icing on the cake to me that this is just, what are they doing? What is Mox? And the Mox has control of this. What are they doing with this angle? I am not interested at all. Every time I see them or I see any of them, I just want to click the channel.
It's a poor man's version of what they try to do with the NWO, making it feel like it was this whole invasion that he was going to destroy AEW. But what really gets to me, where I just shake my head, Jeff, to of what you just said too, right? Let's go back to the glory days. Let's go back to the time machine real quick too. I don't want to labor too much on this topic here, but back then, you saw two people who were WWE guys, right? And you had the best of WCW. You could just name off the list over again on your fingers of these top talents, these people who are established in WCW from independent promotions. And you had the Stings, the Lugers, the Flairs. List goes on and on, right? And you're going to tell me the saviors of AEW are Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. There's nobody else in that locker room. And so what it does to me from a fan's perspective, what it makes me interpret me, listen, there's no doubt that Tony Khan loves Darby Allin, as you call him, the crash test dummy, and Orange Cassidy. So he's going to push them. I have no problem with that. But if you're going to try to convince to me as an audience that these are your top guys, that they're going to stop this invasion, they're going to stop these individuals from killing the one thing they love, what's made them so in terms of a focal point of what they love to do so much, AEW. This is our AEW. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. To the fact that there's nobody in the audience to chant AEW, to the mere fact you have John Moxley doing a promo and somebody shouting it right there that you could hear somebody shout, "Go back to Roman." You shouldn't be able to hear that at a live event. I don't care how good the microphones are. You should never be able to hear that. And then for the mere fact that these are your two best guys, there's no in that locker room. It makes me question as a fan, this is the best you got? But yeah, I can go to watch TNA and I can see the best of the best there. I can go to WWE and just name top stars there, granted, and the list goes on there. And these are your two best. So to me, that just explains a lot in terms of what Tony values, that these are going to be the answers to this invasion that's going to happen. To a group, which you just said, is very plain and dull. And the main focal point of what's twisted this all around, why we don't have Bryan Danielson on TV anymore, and this is the only time you will ever see me thank Wheeler Yuta to get rid of that hypocrite Bryan Danielson. But still, you had an opportunity there for Wheeler Yuta to really make a name for himself, to be the reason why Bryan Danielson is no longer the AEW World Champion, why he's no longer in TV, why his career might be over, and you blew it. And you still blew it. It was right there for you, and you couldn't do it right. So,
yeah, I mean, I thought that the BCC was one of the worst factions in a long time, and nope, because then along came the Death Riders, and they just really picked up where the BCC left off, because they're just as bad, if not awful. I will say before we wrap up that the Hurt Syndicate so far are doing a heck of a job. I'm interested in Lashley and Swerve. Yes, they're ex-WWE guys, right? Swerve less because he wasn't really there that much time, so it's later on Lashley.
He's in NXT, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, okay, so it's a WWE guy that would garner interest, but I mean, I love Shelton Benjamin. He's a good guy. He's getting a new lease, I guess, on his wrestling career, but that's only going to last so long. We know his persona. He's more of a wrestler than a persona, but maybe we're the best wrestler. We're the wrestlers. Is maybe he'll have a new life in AEW. And I think they're too dependent though on MVP being the main guy on the mic. And are they going to get a fourth member on the Hurt Syndicate? We don't know, but so far so good for the Hurt Syndicate, because they are, to me, the most entertaining aspect of all of AEW. And of course, to me, the only other thing too is like Mina is amazing. Mariah May is amazing. And Toni Storm is amazing when she's there. I don't know why you have your star there on an excursion to Japan and Mexico. I mean, is it part of story? Like, have her? I mean, she needs to be there to just kick this feud again with Mariah May. Because, I mean, right now you need something to kickstart this women's division, because I don't think Serena Deeb coming out and challenging a Britt Baker is going to do anything. So, and hopefully
Serena Deeb, Britt Baker, anybody in that roster, and I'm not saying this to be offensive to them, but when Toni Storm is not there, you do not have the right roster to help support Mariah May in terms of her dominance as a women's champion. To have Toni come back to it, I know the reason why they're doing it. They're trying to have people want to yearn to have Toni Storm come back and get her revenge on it. But when you have this talent on the women's roster right now, which is what Mariah May needs to be feasting on, I'm sorry, it doesn't make it impressive to me to think the fact that you need Toni Storm back sooner than later. So it's another failure, I feel, on the scenario of the storyline.
Right, Willow should be there, and I haven't seen Willow. So that's AEW Dynamite. On the rating, so the rating, it got it got the famous the devil, the Satan sign, 666, got 666,000 unopposed to NXT. Yes, it's an increase. It's more than 523,000, so they got an increase there with the ratings, but 666,000 views for this past Dynamite. I don't know. It just, it's not about the ratings, right? It's not about the ratings, whatever. So we'll see what happens. But Full Gear is next week. Hopefully we're at Prudential Center. We'll find out if we get the call, but hopefully we're there. And if not, we'll have the post show on IG Live when that happens, too, covering Full Gear here on HSP. All right, Trendsetter. So I didn't think we'd spend this much time on AEW, but I guess we really haven't had a chance to talk about it. So real quick, NXT. You had Javon Evans. You had Sol Ruka, and you had Wesley. They advanced to the obviously the NXT deadline in that 25-minute that stipulation match. It's coming up. It was a good show. Again, too, like we've talked about this. The men's division is a little bit it's thin.
It's thin in my opinion.
I don't know where Obafemi is, right? I don't know what his role is going to be. Right now, Trick Williams, I don't think Ridge. I'm happy for Ridge, but I I'm not buying into this Ridge being a main guy. I think he's a stopgap, right? That's what I think he's being used as. And the women's division is amazing. Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, Zarya. I mean, outstanding.
AEW would kill to have this women's roster that NXT has right now. Any company would kill to have this roster. It's only on NXT. Imagine what happens when they do move up to the main roster. To me, the main focal point of NXT right now is the women's division.
It is, and they had 4 matches there too. So so obviously that is the place to be for women's wrestling, and I'm very excited for 2025 to see what happens, because you haven't even gotten Stephanie Vaquer and Julia in the ring against one another too. We'll probably see that down the road sooner than later, but we still haven't even seen it. I like that they're pairing them together. I think it's a chance to get to know them together at the same time, instead of having to spend your time on individually trying to get them over. Stephanie Vaquer, to me, is just a little bit right now, a little bit in the lead over Julia as far as popularity too. I think Stephanie has kind of a little outshined Julia just a little bit. But in this matchup, in the tag team matchup that they had against Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, I think you saw Julia kind of I would guess kind of narrow the lead there. So NXT is doing good, but the men's division is a little thin.
You will never see me complain about seeing Stephanie and Julia on TV.
No.
I will never complain. I don't care.
Absolutely not. Trendsetter, as we head to Survivor Series, we saw the reunion on Smackdown. We're not going to spend too much time on Smackdown. All we'll talk about is 2 things on that. Is that, 3 things, but the NXT, the reunion of the Bloodline, Sammy's back in the fold as we thought it would happen. Accept it, folks. Sami Zayn is a Uso. I was happy with 4-on-4.
Me too.
I was happy with 4-on-4, and I get it. But now, and again, don't want to spoil it, because the NXT Raw had tapings this past week, a double taping. So we kind of, if you want, maybe you could just fast forward this, but there is going to be a 5-on-5, right? And it's leaning towards people I didn't think it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a Cody if you're going to add somebody, and maybe The Rock. The Rock's not doing Survivor Series, and Cody is, I don't know what the plan is for Cody at Survivor Series, but we're getting a. Put your hands on your ears, folks. Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed. Yes, well, I'm interested in how Seth is going to coexist with a Roman Reigns. If you're Roman Reigns, and this is such a big deal here, because this is a chance now to reclaim the Ulafala, to make the OG Bloodline dominant, you're just going to sit back and have Sami Zayn and the Usos pick out your partner? Shouldn't you have more of a say in that? And for it to be Seth Rollins, how is that going to go over with Roman Reigns? Right? How is that going to go over with Roman?
Well,
right? And then a Bronson Reed, yes, I'm glad he's in the big stage, but how does Bronson fit into the Bloodline angle? So to me, it's just a little bit puzzling that, to me, a 4-on-4 would have been fine. And it would have been more understandable if you go 5 if it was Cody and The Rock. But this is, to me, it feels rushed. It feels like we had to get the Survivor Series. This whole Bloodline, after Roman Reigns came back at SummerSlam, to me, and just Solo being this comical character now, and it's working, but I don't know, Trendsetter. It's just something is off with these other innings that we're in here, because it's been mostly more miss than hit.
Yeah, listen, I think we're in the 19th inning right now, and you just can't get the run over from third base. Just can't. That's what it feels like to me right now, especially the build up towards Survivor Series. I agree with you. I was fine in terms of it just being the original, 4-on-4. That's it. That's what's I was okay with that. But now you're bringing in Seth and Bronson Reed. To this point right now, and what I take from this is this, right? Despite how you think about the storyline and what's going on with Bloodline, I'll leave you with this. When we saw Roman Reigns at the pinnacle of WrestleMania, and people were, he was the most dominant force of being the champion for the longest time, lost the title, spent some time away. Then you heard people literally chanting the day after, "We want Roman, we want Roman." Time away makes the heart grow fonder, I guess, right? And now you have him back. And I always thought, man, he is such a good bad guy that now you can't help but cheer him when he comes back, because he's going to turn into be a babyface now. And he comes out with that promo, says, something's changed, but I don't change. I'm sorry to say this, Roman, but you have changed right now. You have no control whatsoever. You're working and you're staying with you're tag team with people that you would normally win tag team with, like a Cody, for example. bringing back a guy like Sami Zayn who hits you in the back with the chair, just like Seth Rollins did right now. It just, to me, undermines Roman Reigns a lot now. The whole battle is for the Ula Fala, right? Him to regain control of what he felt he never lost because he was still the tribal chief. Now Soul is there. I could understand that story. But when you start putting these other ingredients in, to me, it starts losing its value to a certain degree now. I get it, what you're trying to do it for, building to a huge Survivor Series War Games match. But it's like, come on, guys, let's stick with what works here. And so now, like you said, it feels like it's really dragging right now. And although the match I feel will be good, I just feel honestly it's kind of like you said, it feels rushed. It feels like we're just putting these pieces in. Oh, cool. Let's just put Seth in there. Let's put Bronson in there. They have a rivalry, but let's just combine it all together and mix it with the storyline. Sometimes things like that don't mix, and I don't think it mixes in this actual equation here. In terms of,
I would have had more respect for Seth. Stick to his guns, because he called out Sammy, saying, after everything they put you through, why are you coming back and help? Even though you are close with Jay, why are you involving yourself back into this, right?
Yeah.
And for Seth Rollins, then for this episode to team up now, yes, I'm interested in the dynamic of what's going to be like him and Seth and Roman Reigns, right? Because you've never gotten that continuation of that feud, right? I love though that I haven't touched that in 3 years, 2 years.
Yeah.
But like again, it just doesn't seem it's put in its right place. I think I kind of, since Bad Blood, have been kind of like turned off because it's been the same thing, and it's just, and to me, it's just gone. It's gone faster than I think. There's been it's not been organic. I think we've been able to more to play because we didn't know it was going to happen last year, and this year it's kind of like sort of like, oh, okay, eventually Sammy's coming back. Oh, and then Jey Uso's gonna, and now it's been more predictable. And I think that's another thing too. That's the unpredictability of last year compared to this year has been a huge difference. And I don't know, maybe we do get a change, and it's not Seth and Braun, but right now the way it is. We'll discuss more about it too as we find out in the next coming weeks once we get back to the normal tapings of the live shows of Raw and SmackDown. But it's going to be interesting to see if they do keep Seth and Bronson. As far as a women's War Games match, I'm a little surprised too because, again, while the feud is there and there's reasons why, to me, again, are we having a War Games for the sake of having a War Games match for the women? Or are we really something that like this match deserves to be War Games? Because Rhea Ripley's injury kind of hindered it. We didn't think we were going to have a women's War Games, but now we are, because Rhea, cover your ears, folks, is back, and we're going to get a women's War Games. Again, is this something that did we even need? Because I'd much rather see the Wyatts take on the New Testament. That to me has War Games right there, just the way that faction is. That to me would be more interesting than the women's War Games match.
Yeah, similar to what we talked about before. I felt like it was put together last minute. You're combining these other individuals into the story, which is basically the unfinished business between Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, and everyone else is being connected, in my opinion, because really there's nothing going on for them. So we're not going to have the tag team titles up for grabs at Survivor Series. We're going to just negate that and put them together to link all these people in the same match. So listen, for the entertainment aspect of it, whether it be the men's one with the Bloodline and this one with the women's, it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be good. It's going to be interesting. But in terms of it being put together and making any sense to me personally, it doesn't make any sense to me right now. More the women than the men right now, because you can understand why they're pitting in these characters into the War Games match. But for the women right now, it really feels like, Bianca, you're not doing anything. Io, you're not doing anything. These two came from NXT. I'm going to put them here, and it's just kind of a makeshift thing because it's all based around Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. So
absolutely, and again, glad that Rhea's back. But again, though, we got to question if this were they're going to have a great matchup. That's not the issue. We're not talking about the quality of the match. We're talking about whether it merits a War Games style match. On SmackDown, we have the introduction of a new United States Women's Championship. We'll see how they introduce that, but obviously they needed a mid-card championship because now you have a lot of females in it. Now you have NXT, and you have a lot of females coming up there. I predict eventually there will be a women's show somewhere on a platform. There's just too much money to be made on that. So maybe they'll stream it or something like that, or maybe Netflix will add it on down the road. But I can see a women's TV show down the road, and I see why they'll have a U.S. championship. Maybe they'll have an Intercontinental championship maybe next year. What I'm more interested in is the whole Kevin Owens and Randy Orton feud because I like where Kevin Owens is going right now as far as his character. And Randy Orton, boy, he's got a nice little schedule. He's off every freaking week because of he's kayfabe and injuries. But I'm curious about that. I like that. And on the Raw side, there's a little feud between Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio that's kind of brewing. I do not want to see Dominic Mysterio turn face anytime soon. To me, that'll be rushing it too. That's something that needs to be organic. And I could see Dominic Mysterio being a heel his whole career. But of course, they're going to want to push him as a baby face. I'm dreading that.
Remember, Dominic started as a babyface. Now he's a heel. But being a heel for the rest of his career, yeah.
Because he was raised kid and he thought he was getting fast-tracked into WWE. That's why it didn't work. This is going to be a natural here turn where it happens, but I want it to be organic. I don't want them to be pushing him to this level where he might not need to be a heel. Out of all those things that are not Bloodline related or War Games related, and still CM Punk, where is he going to factor into this? What to you is the other underlying thing that WWE is doing right now that it's drawing your attention? I'm all about Kevin Owens' character.
Yeah, I have to say that's what's been interesting for me. Like, listen, for Kevin Owens, as long as he's been with the company, he's always done a great job in whatever role that's been given to him to give it 100%. And in this role particularly, and we can talk about how he flip flops back and forth, where he's a babyface and he's a heel, but he always does a great job. And this new version of him seems to be more sinister, more dangerous than ever before. Right? Doesn't care about anything, even though he does call Randy Orton his friend. If he's willing to do this to a friend, what would he do to an enemy, right? It makes you think that way too. But what I find interesting in this storyline with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens is this. Ever since Randy Orton came back, he's been this thankful, loving guy, appreciative of the fans, just honored to be, literally in this scenario where he thought his career may or may not be over, right? Now, a supposed friend of his has now turned his back on him and now pile drived him. We finally got the pile driver back. That was pretty huge in terms of how it was used in the story now that he's going to take some time off. So to me, this is, in my evil mind, Jeff, is the inner workings of the voices are going to start coming back to Randy Orton. The punt, which hasn't been used in a long time, will eventually come back. I'm not going to say it's going to be done on Kevin Owens, but that type of Randy Orton. And the reason why is a lot of people are aware of this as well, because if you go on social media, Twitter, Instagram, they're posting this sinister Randy Orton. He had his head shaved. He was punting everybody. He was this personification of what evil was. Are we going to get that Randy Orton coming back? Because Randy Orton has not been that quick to pull the trigger. He's always had this type of humanity behind him. Can we start getting levels of that coming back? Because I miss that as a fan.
I want to see the Viper. I want to see the Apex Predator. I want to see that guy back. He's big. He's been taking way too many ever since he got injured at the hands of the Bloodline. We haven't seen that Randy Orton just come back and just be that Viper like we're talking about, the Apex Predator, be Randy Orton. Like you were talking about the voices. We're looking forward to that when that happens. But to me, this Randy Orton, yes, it was nice when he came back to Survivor Series, and it's going to be wild. It's almost going to be a year now since he came back. Time flies. We need that other Randy Orton because heel Randy Orton is so much better, and we can't wait. I know people have said it too online. When he does something to Brandy Rhodes, or when he does something to RKO's Brandy Rhodes, or when he RKO's Cody Rhodes, is going to be something great. And now though, with the introduction of John Cena, maybe you get Cena and Cody or something. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of players for a lot of few spots when you head into WrestleMania. How that's all. You
mentioned CM Punk too. Where does he fit in all of this? He's going to be at Survivor Series. I don't know.
Gunther and Damian Priest. That's your championship matchup at Survivor Series. Does Damian Priest get a shot at the title once again, or Gunther? Is Gunther going to be the guy that's gets sacrificed for John Cena at WrestleMania 41? Would a Gunther and Cena match be something that they're pulling up to? Is John Cena going to win the Royal Rumble match? Because that's been announced. He's going to be at the Royal Rumble. So many things, a lot of players for only 4 spots, because either you open or you close the WrestleMania night 1 and you open and you close WrestleMania night 2. And those are 4 spots. And the women too, they deserve one of those spots too. So you may be talking 3 out of 4 spots for men here at WrestleMania,
or 2 and 2. You never know.
You never know. So there's a lot, and Drew McIntyre, when is he coming back? So there's a lot of things going on here in the dynamic of what's going to lead up to WrestleMania. And we'll see what happens with Survivor Series. But getting to the just the main thing, though, this Bloodline thing to me has just stalled a little bit, and it's not the same as it was last year because it's just getting a little bit more too predictable. We want that unpredictability, and we'll see where Paul Heyman even factors into this one, Trendsetter. So a lot to discuss too. So we got Raw, SmackDown. We're going to talk about. We talked about NXT. We talked about AEW. We talked about AEW because we haven't had a chance to really in a long time. And then the only other thing, Trendsetter, to wrap it up, is the WWE ID. This a lot of people are saying that this
concept
is gonna take more independent wrestlers away. But listen, Triple H knows what he's doing. They just had a wrestler get given his contract or his WWE ID. Sorry, it's not a contract; it's a WWE ID. This past at a wrestling event for Beyond Wrestling, and it's kind of like when Nick Wayne got his contract from AEW when he was at an independent show, and it was you're getting into AEW. Triple H is smart. He's factoring all these things in. It's creating a buzz. I mean, Carmen Petrovic is going to wrestle for GCW in Jersey City, actually, coming up. So you're getting all these things. One of the wrestlers from Noah is on excursion into NXT. You're seeing all these things happen. Probably going to see more of this in 2025. This WWE ID thing, I think, to me, is them getting a head start on those people that AEW is getting before, and now they're trying to get them into the WWE fold. So to me, it's a smart move by Triple H. I don't think it's going to be a hindrance to these independent wrestlers being booked on independent shows because you don't have to work for a certain company to be in this WWE ID thing. You're just there. WWE has the first dibs of signing you if you do get a contract from an AEW or a TNA or New Japan or so on and so on. But I don't think it hinders booking these guys onto your wrestling shows.
Listen, I think it's a great form of promotion, of branding themselves, of, hey, listen, you're the future, or at least we think you're the future of this industry as time goes by. I think it's great. I don't think it hurts independent promotions because when you have that, say somebody comes in and they're labeled that, like you just said in Jersey City, it's going to happen. I think it brings more eyes to it. More people want to actually attend this to say, hey, whoa, listen, if they think this individual is on that level right now, I'm kind of interested. I kind of want to see it myself. So I think it only helps the individual. It helps the promotion that they're working in. I think there's a common sense here. I mean, similar. AEW did the same thing as well. I think the days of just looking at the independent scene, I feel to a certain degree, as a that's kind of the third world type of thing. You're lucky if you come out of that in terms of either making money or make it to one of the big shows out there. At that time, the two big shows were WCW and WWE during that era. Now I think it's more accepted. And when WWE and AEW or just other promotions do this, it just allows it. I mean, hey, listen, they branded it perfectly. I'll give credit to AEW in this scenario, right, where they use the forbidden door, because for the longest time, as idiotic as it sounds now to talk about it, that was the thing. I think the days now where those things were forbidden or not allowed or not accepted are way gone. I mean, you've seen what AEW has done with promotions like New Japan, TNA, right? And now what TNA has done in their partnership with NXT and WWE, I think it does work. It can work, and it only helps the industry. When you do this, it doesn't hurt it. It only helps it and grows it more.
I think when you have a WWE ID or somebody associated with WWE, it helps their business. It helps their stock. They can charge more for bookings, and I think that it helps them out in the long run because they're identified under the WWE umbrella. So it's definitely going to have eyes and be like, oh, this guy. And of course, it's going to help your show out too, because if he's a WWE person that's affiliated with those three letters, we're going to have more eyes that, oh, if WWE sees this guy, we definitely need to go to Beyond Wrestling. We need to go to Booker T's.
AEW, yes.
These guys wrestle. So definitely I think WWID works. And you mentioned TNA. Shout out to them because they're doing tremendous business. They're solid with their tapings, and that's what happens when a healthy partnership works out. And say what you say. You might want to say you think different. Look at the crowd. Look at the house for these shows for TNA. They're doing the best business in a long time. And we thought them losing Scott D'Amore was going to be a hindrance, and I think TNA has done a good job by kind of like looking, by just jumping ahead of that and doing good business. All right, Trendsetter. So we discussed a lot here. We're able to get it in. Like I said, more NXT, more SmackDown, more talk of Survivor Series and Full Gear as we head up to the next show. We'll definitely give you a weekend show as well. But it's good to be back here in the fold. We had a great interview with Simon Miller. Make sure you check that out on our IG, on our Instagram. He's under the Reels category, so it's great to have Simon for a little bit. He's actually a guest with Chris Van Vliet this week too. So Obviously, we gave him the rub, and Chris was like, I definitely need to book Simon Miller.
Of course.
And so that's why it's good we give the rub to Simon. But again, though, really lots to discuss, and we're heading into Survivor Series, so looking forward to us. You can listen to us and watch us on the Give a Shot Network. We're on all major podcast platforms. Make sure you download and subscribe to that. Follow us on all our social media at Highspot Podcast. I am Jeff Martin alongside the Trendsetter. And again, make sure you hit that notification bell here on the Give a Shot Network on YouTube, and make sure you don't miss a single second of High Spot Podcast. HSP Trendsetter, close it like only you can.
Hopefully, guys don't ever miss a second, because we can't wait till the next time we do this for you guys. And it's always a joy for us. Like I said before in the beginning, it's a labor of love, but we do it with no reservation whatsoever. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the High Spot Podcast. For my tag team partner, Jeff Martin, I'm the Trendsetter, Brian Berga. This is the Jersey Wrecking Crew, and we do this for one reason only. We do this for you, the crew.